In the fall of 1943, Europe was burning. The skies over France were thick with contrails, hundreds of Allied bombers roaring east toward Germany, and swarms of fighters escorting them home. Among them was one of America's most powerful machines, the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, a brute of an airplane, built like a flying tank, designed to crush anything the enemy could throw its way. But one of those Thunderbolts didn't make it home, and what happened next became one of the strangest stories of the air war, when the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, captured and flew an American fighter against the very pilots who built it. The P-47 Thunderbolt was an American masterpiece, over 18,000 built by Republic Aviation. With its massive 2,000-horsepower Pratt & Whitney engine, it was the heaviest single-engine fighter of the war. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't graceful, but it could climb to 40,000 feet, dive faster than any German fighter, and soak up bullets that would tear a Messerschmitt in half. "We called her the Jug," pilots said. "She was big, she was ugly, but she'd bring you home every damn time." The Germans feared her and respected her. But in November 1943, they got something they'd never had before, a fully intact P-47 right on their own runway. It happened on November 7, 1943. Lieutenant William E. Roach of the 355th Fighter Group, 358th Squadron, was flying cover over France. Somewhere over the channel, his Thunderbolt began to sputter. The turbo supercharger had failed. Oil pressure dropped. At just a few thousand feet above the ground, Roach made a split-second decision: look for somewhere to land. But in 1943, somewhere in northern France usually meant enemy territory. He found a strip of flat ground, an airfield, freshly paved. What he didn't realize was it was Caen-Carquier, a Luftwaffe base. The Jug touched down hard, bounced, rolled to a stop. Before Roach could even unstrap his harness, German guards surrounded the aircraft. The Thunderbolt was captured without a single bullet fired. The Germans could hardly believe their luck. In Berlin, word reached Luftwaffe High Command. An American P-47 has landed intact. Send the test crews. The aircraft was quickly transported under guard to Rechlin, the Luftwaffe's top-secret flight test center. There, the engineers of the Versuchsverband Oberbefehlshaber der Luftwaffe, the experimental unit, went to work. The Americans had painted it olive drab. The Germans stripped it down, repainted it, and gave it a new code, T9 plus FK. The swastika went on the tail, the black iron cross across the wings. For the first time in the war, a P-47 Thunderbolt wore German markings. Test pilot Hans Werner Leche was one of the Luftwaffe's most trusted men, an engineer, fluent in English, and brave enough to fly just about anything the enemy built. When he first saw the P-47, Lerche later wrote, "It looked like a barrel with wings, enormous, but solid." German technicians spent days examining the aircraft. Wiring, fuel systems, the turbocharger ducts, the radio, the guns. Then Lerche climbed in. The canopy slid shut, the engine roared to life. He eased the throttle forward, and the Jug rolled down the runway. The German observers watched as the foreign beast lifted off into the gray northern sky. What they learned surprised them. The P-47 was fast, especially in a dive. At 20,000 feet, it could reach speeds that would rip the wings off a Messerschmitt. Its roll rate was steady, its control heavy, but stable, and the cockpit visibility excellent. But it wasn't perfect. Below 10,000 feet, the P-47 felt sluggish. It couldn't outclimb the Bf-109 or the FW-190. She is a machine built for altitude, for raw strength, not elegance, Lerche noted. Still, the Luftwaffe now had something far more valuable than a trophy: intelligence. They began rewriting tactics: how to dive away from a pursuing P-47, how to lure it into tight turns, and how to survive the onslaught of American escorts. Soon, photos of the captured Jug circulated among Luftwaffe units. It was paraded before German pilots, a way to study the enemy up close. But the Germans weren't just studying it, they were flying it. The captured Jug flew alongside German aircraft in mock dogfights, filmed and measured. To the Allies, it was a symbol of vulnerability. To the Luftwaffe, it was a chance to level the playing field, if only for a while. And it wasn't the only one. A second Thunderbolt, captured in Italy in May 1944, was recoded T9 plus LK and flown by the mysterious Circus Rosarius, a special Luftwaffe unit dedicated to flying captured Allied planes. These aircraft were used to teach German pilots what they'd face in combat: a traveling circus of enemy planes, flown by German hands. Back in England, the loss of Roach's P-47 caused concern. Intelligence officers feared the Luftwaffe might study the aircraft's advanced systems, especially its turbo supercharger, one of the most sophisticated pieces of American engineering in the war. "That turbo system was our secret sauce," one engineer said. "It gave the Jug her altitude advantage." The fear wasn't unfounded. German engineers were fascinated by the P-47's turbo system, a labyrinth of ducts and controls that let it breathe at 40,000 feet. But reproducing it was beyond Germany's industrial capacity by 1944. Fuel shortages, bombing raids, and lack of rare materials meant they could study the Thunderbolt, but not copy it. Still, the intelligence gained shaped German fighter tactics for the next year and cost Allied pilots their lives. Imagine it. You're an American pilot escorting bombers over the Rhine. You spot a lone P-47 far ahead, painted strangely, moving differently. You call it out on the radio: "Thunderbolt at 2 o'clock high." But as you close in, it banks toward you, and you see the black Iron Cross under its wings. A captured American fighter, now in enemy hands. For weeks in 1944, Allied pilots reported sightings of a German Jug. Some thought it was a trick. Some refused to believe it, but it was real. By spring 1945, the war was collapsing around the Reich. The test units at Rechlin were ordered to destroy sensitive equipment. But the captured P-47, T9 plus FK, somehow survived. When U.S. troops entered the area in May 1945, they found it sitting in a hangar near Bad Wörishofen, still wearing German markings, dust settling on its wings. An American mechanic who saw it later said it looked wrong, like finding an eagle in a cage painted black. The plane was shipped back to Allied custody for study, a strange reunion of an American machine that had spent nearly 2 years flying for the other side. Lieutenant Roach, who had been captured and survived the war as a POW, never forgot it. The story of the captured Thunderbolt is more than a curiosity. It's a window into the intelligence war that raged behind the front lines. Each side raced to understand the other, their technology, their tactics, their psychology. The Germans did it with the P-47. The Americans did it with captured Focke-Wulfs and Messerschmitts. It was a war not only of bullets, but of brains. And through it all, the P-47 proved itself as one of the rugged, most dependable aircraft ever built, a machine that served in every theater of the war, from Normandy to Burma. In the end, that single P-47, The one that landed in the wrong place on a gray November day never fired a shot in anger for Germany. But it taught them something, and reminded us of something greater. That even in the chaos of war, machines are only as powerful as the men who fly them. Courage, luck, and fate, sometimes they all meet on the same runway.